everybody who has a heart sees that and go, that can't be right.
So what he's doing is focusing entirely on this agenda of punishment and cruelty.
I gotta say, as somebody who follows news and politics closely, who tries to do my best to inform people about what is going on, it is incredibly annoying, to say the least, that one of the dumbest people on earth is also one of the most influential. Joe Rogan, the man that helped Trump win the election, absolutely had an impact, is now maybe regretting what he did. So I'm going to get to his clip on how he's feeling about what ICE is doing, the mass deportations, and how they're just terrorizing people. And it's worth noting, all of this was clear before the election. It's one thing if you don't have a platform, if you weren't paying attention, if you don't have the biggest podcast on earth and brought Donald Trump on your podcast to give him a nice massage. If you're not that person, and you're surprised at what's happening, okay. If you're Joe Rogan, though, and you have a platform, you have an impact on people, and you didn't know this was coming, you're a dumbass. So I'll get to the Rogan clip, but all of this was very clear. This was during the RNC last year. Trump is putting mass deportations at the heart of his campaign. They literally handed out signs, mass deportation now. Republicans cheer for mass deportation, a dark new chapter in America's history of othering them. That's again, article from the RNC a year ago. This is posted by the MAGA War Room. This is a Republican-aligned group that shared this clip of Donald Trump.
That is why, as soon as I take the oath of office, we will begin the largest deportation operation in the history of our country, even larger than that of President Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Shortly after that, Joe Rogan had this monster on his podcast to give him the easiest interview of his life. Also, went on to give him a big hug after he won the election at UFC 309 on November 16th. A few months later, when Trump took over and ICE began what they are doing, this is a report from June. 65% of people taken by ICE had no convictions, 93% no violent convictions. More data here. ICE is deporting thousands with minor offenses from traffic violations to weed possession. People with no criminal convictions at all make up 2/3 of the more than 120,000 people deported between January and May. For another 8%, the only offense on their record was illegal entry to the U.S. Only about 12% were convicted of a crime that was either violent or potentially violent. The numbers contradict officials' continued claims that immigration enforcement is focusing on the worst of the worst criminal offenders. And all of this was warned about before the election. If you did any reading at all of the scrutiny of Donald Trump's campaign, Project 2025, the people around Donald Trump, like Stephen Miller, absolute monsters, you would have been aware of this. When you have a platform, you have a responsibility to the people, to your audience, the people that may come across your video. You have a responsibility to tell them the reality as you see it, which is why I show you my sources. I link to my sources below the video under sources on YouTube. And then I discuss my thoughts, which may differ from your thoughts, but I show you why I reach the conclusions I reach based on what I see. Rogan is 100 millionaire. He has a hell of a lot more freedom, a hell of a lot more time, a hell of a lot more resources than I do. And didn't do the bare minimum when it came to discussing the election. And now we're supposed to what? Feel bad that he was fooled? Feel good that he is maybe being aware of the mistake he made? No, this is an absolute dumbass that does not even, dumbass is being too kind. He does not care about how his platform impacts real people's lives. Immigrants with no criminal record, now the largest group in ICE detention. So they show the numbers here. Like it's wild. And you could do any search. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of stories about ICE terrorizing people. There was the recent one from last week, the big one about the raid on a Chicago apartment building. ICE putting kids in handcuffs, raiding this apartment building overnight, just terrorizing these people, these innocent people. Another example, Debbie Brockman, this is a recent example, is a journalist for WGN, Chicago's most iconic television station. Here she is being wrestled to the ground, handcuffed and detained by masked ICE agents in broad daylight. ICE ran into her vehicle, dragged her out. Her whereabouts is unknown. Another recent one, this from 2 days ago. Video shows ICE agents shooting protesting pastor with pepper ball from a rooftop. And they apparently laughed after they did it. And they came out later to defend themselves. ICE released a statement after an agent aimed a pepper ball at a priest's head after he prayed and laughed when he was hit. Quote, "If you are obstructing law enforcement, you can expect to be met with force." They were on a rooftop. ICE was on a rooftop. These were just protesters. This is a pastor. Obstructing law enforcement? Adam Johnson writing here, not sure people not subject to this in their cities truly comprehend how much ICE is terrorizing Chicago. They are everywhere, kidnapping whomever they want, arresting journalists, targeting construction and domestic laborers, deliberately sowing fear in almost every neighborhood. Here is the dumbass himself.
Let's just talk about the immigration thing. The way it looks is horrific. When you're just arresting people in front of their kids and just normal, regular people that have been here for 20 years, that everybody who has a heart can't get along with that.
No.
Everybody who has a heart sees that and goes, that can't be right. That can't be right. That can't be the only way to do this.
Right.
Because you have to think, look, yeah, we have to have a border. Yes, it should have been secure. Yes, they should make sure you know who everybody is before they get in.
Yeah.
But when people been here for 20 years, like, come on, man. That's crazy. Like, let's find a way. If they've been productive members of society for 20 years, no criminal record, they worked the entire time, they paid taxes, find them a pathway to citizenship. Find a way where you can do this thing that you want to do, which is keep terrorists and cartel members from getting across the border with drugs that kill 100,000 people a year. Okay, but also have a fucking heart. Because if you don't, you're not going to get anybody on your side. If you're doing this stuff publicly, throwing women to the ground, handcuffing people, just for existing on the wrong side of the dirt. Not a criminal. Not the only crime they ever committed was coming over here as a kid. They probably didn't even know what the fuck was going on.
Man.
You know, a lot of kids got snuck across when they were already born in Mexico. And they've grown up their entire life in America. They can't even speak Spanish.
This is someone who is now trying to cover his ass because he knows how unpopular all of this is. You have to hold yourself to a higher standard when you have a platform, when you've made over $100 million for doing a podcast. If you're going to discuss news and politics, if you're going to weigh in, if you're going to bring politicians on, you have to know what you're doing. It's hard to know what to say because this is somebody like I actually, after all of this, I actually do believe this kind of bothers Joe Rogan. I'm someone, I used to watch his podcast going back 2013 to like 2017. Then he began to have some questionable guests. But there's a real person that was in there at some point. we see a moment of it here. But it like I have such a hard time comprehending how you don't understand how important it is to be informed when you are speaking on these issues before an election. Like I to feel no responsibility to that, to not apologize for what you helped bring in, have some awareness, grow from it, to not have any of that. I don't know. Like, just my only hope is people stop listening to garbage like this. To be clear, he isn't the only one. There's a bunch of dumbasses like this that were on the Trump train and now are trying to backpedal because of what's actually happening. That was all clear before the election. It just ridiculous. One last clip here. I want to share just a nice palate cleanser because after watching this dumbass, it's important to be reminded that good people exist in positions of power with platforms. Zohran Mamdani, was on MSNBC's Morning Joe and spoke to what the strategy of what Trump is doing.
Donald Trump ran on 3 promises. He ran on the punishment of his political enemies, he ran on easing the cost of living crisis, and he ran on engaging in a program of mass deportation. It's that second promise of the cost of living crisis that brought so many to his campaign, and yet he's unable and unwilling to deliver on that because he's beholden to the very billionaires that are profiting off of that crisis. So what he's doing is focusing entirely on this agenda of punishment and cruelty. And what I would do is to actually stand up for New Yorkers. And what I mean by that is you can see in this race right now, the other candidate that is running for mayor is Andrew Cuomo. He released a statement yesterday speaking about this indictment of Attorney General James. He couldn't even name her. He couldn't even name Donald Trump. And he couldn't do those things because he knows that his narrow path to City Hall is paved by the very billionaires who put Donald Trump back in the White House. And Donald Trump's getting a good return on his investment right now because he's seeing a mayoral candidate, a former governor, unwilling to lift a finger when we see this unprecedented attack, not just on our democracy, but on an attorney general whose only crime is standing up for the people of New York.
All right. So, well, I think it's important to note that movements, people power is what leads to lasting change. Having political leaders like Zohran Mamdani, who, by the way, are from the movements, having political leaders like this who are able to articulate what is going on and have these individuals in positions of power, like mayor of New York City is a solid position of power in terms of being able to lead a fight, lead a movement to push back against what is happening. It's important to highlight people like this and ensure people like this get into whatever positions of power exist. Because if there is that combination of outside power of movements with inside power, like mayor of New York City, that is what can ultimately help what was just a movement, move it into something that actually leads to lasting change. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe and check out some of the other videos I have on this channel.